June is over, but we have 11 movies to talk about. All right. What's up, Flick fans? Welcome back to the channel. June was awesome. Some great TV shows. We started a podcast, and I saw some pretty good movies today. We're going to talk about them, the good, the bad, and the anxiety.
I'm going out tonight. Try not to die.
Yeah, let's start with the movie In the Watchers that I thought had a ton of potential. This is directed by the daughter of M. Night Shyamalan, so is there going to be a twist, or is the twist that she doesn't do twists? We don't know. But the cast had me excited. The premise was awesome. It's about this young artist played by Dakota Fanning gets trapped in the woods and trapped in this place where everyone is trapped. So is the movie called Trapped? No, that's a different movie. It's The Watchers. But every night they're stalked by these mysterious creatures, and the entire movie is a mystery. Why are they there? Why are they being watched? Who is actually watching them? Yada, yada, yada. Now, when we inevitably get to the reveal, series of reveals, the twists of sorts. I'll tiptoe around the reveal here in just a second, but I do want to talk about it. But based off of this concept alone, I thought it was a great idea. Just the horror, the thrills that you could build off of just based around what they are doing, where they are, and how they could go at each other's throats being in this one location that they cannot escape from no matter what they do. Fast forward a little bit and you start to get that reveal, and for me, this is where the movie completely falls apart. Now, prior to that, there were moments that were great. There were also moments where it just feels like they don't really know what to do in this movie. The script kind of meanders, our character meanders, and a lot of my potential enthusiasm was going to spawn from once we actually get into the nitty-gritty of what this story is all about. But once we get there, instead of going in the positive direction, we just go straight into the worst direction possible because the movie completely falls apart. Yeah, it's a little boring prior to that, so that doesn't help. But when we actually start to get into the action, it doesn't really know what it wants to do. The film doesn't know what it's trying to be. I thought it was just so poorly written. Now, the look and feel, the aesthetics of the film are actually fantastic at times, and it showcases potential for our director. But this script wasn't it. These characters weren't it. And what this movie actually is kind of funny if you think about it. So I'm putting The Watchers on the bad tier.
On a un signal.
C'est pas possible.
Then we have Under Paris, the shark movie. You know, the big one that came. No, nobody knows what this is. Unless you were on Netflix and you saw this this thing swimming around in the top 10, and you're probably like, oh, this is cool. It's a shark movie. It's a horror film. You've got these World Triathlon Championships going on in the middle of Paris, and some scientists are starting to figure out, oh, no, there are going to be multiple massive sharks in the water, hundreds of sharks, but they're going to do it anyway because there's evil government people who want this thing to happen no matter what. The plot's stupid. Nobody cares about the plot. I didn't care about the plot. It doesn't matter. None of it matters.
Move this man!
Okay, let me retract that statement. This is actually fun if you enjoy these turn your brain off horror schlocky films that get a little crazy. You've got some shark violence, some underwater violence. I actually liked stylistically how these underwater scenes were filmed at times, and those moments are really fun. That being said, logic is something this movie does not have. So if you want a slight cohesive script, something that approaches reality, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get good decision making. You're not going to get characters that make wise choices. They don't want to trust the one person who knows what they're talking about. It's dumb. From start to finish, it's dumb. You know where this is going. It's another one on the bad tier. Wasn't awful, though. It could have been worse.
This is madness.
Right?
Yeah, this is your mom and your boss, who you hate. It's weird.
We go from horror to a romantic comedy in a family affair. Very similar to the Anne Hathaway movie we got earlier this year, but this one stars Nicole Kidman, Zac Efron, and Joey King. Out of those three, who do you think the most interesting character is? Surprisingly, it's Joey King's character. Now, she's handling some of this stuff like maybe a younger person than 24 would do, but it's at least more interesting than the relationship between these two amazing actors in Kidman and Efron, who showcase absolutely no chemistry when they are on screen. The physicality of the relationship is there, but the emotional growth just doesn't happen in the film, and you're wondering the entire time, what do they have in common? And even if they have nothing in common, are they learning more about each other as they go that doesn't feel like they're doing it in a superficial way? And my answer to that is no. And so if you have an issue with the relationship, or you just don't buy the fact that these two are gonna, I didn't get it. I love these two. Efron's good in the movie. Kidman's compelling in the film, but when they're together on screen, I just didn't buy it. I didn't feel the chemistry, and it's a rom-com. The comedy's there, sort of, kind of, in moments, in spurts, but for the most part, it's not all that funny of a film. So in a way, it's sweet. It does get better towards the end. You get that emotional moment that actually, kind of redeemed elements of the movie, but I still didn't buy the relationship. Boo! You stink! So I gotta put it on the bad tier, because it just doesn't work as a romantic comedy. Come on, there we go. You got it.
I'm thinking of starting a writing club.
Next up, the Bikeriders, Tom Hardy, Austin Butler, Jodie Comer. I really like Jeff Nichols as a director. Mud was one of my favorites of that year. Now, this is my least favorite Jeff Nichols movie. I feel as if the Bikeriders had a better opportunity to showcase some of the actors on screen, to give us more compelling stories, to not tell the story in this exact way. A lot of it depends on the romance between Austin Butler and Jodie Comer. And when they're on screen together, it's great, but they're not on screen together all that often. And I felt like there was a huge missed opportunity with Tom Hardy's character, who's giving an awesome performance. It's the best we've seen him in years, but there's depth left on the table now. As a group, the Vandals are fascinating. They play like a character of their own. The trajectory of what they're doing and the path, the journey that they're on is fascinating, and I was riveted by that path, but individual characters were a little shortchanged here, as were relationships, and so because of that, I was debating okay or good tier. I think I'm still going to put it on the good tier just because I love the aesthetic, the atmosphere, and the vibes here, but it had potential for great.
I need a ginger ale. Get a ginger ale and nothing else. Are those dogs fresh?
If you're a super hardcore Michael Bay Bad Boys fan and you're like, I am not wanting anyone to come in and take this franchise over, then you may not be on board for these new movies, but I feel like they bring the essence of what Michael Bay brought, but with their own spin on this universe character story and pushing it in a, wait for it, Fast and Furious direction, but not in a bad way, right? We're building on this lore, these movies, and these characters, and we're creating something that feels distinct, and it's taking this franchise in a nice direction. That's just me saying, I had a good time with Bad Boys Ride or Die. Look, I don't think it's a great movie. There are some odd decisions. They try to get a little out there with one of the characters, what he's going through, but the Mike and Marcus chemistry, relationship, banter, back and forth is all there, and it's really fun, and it's able to overcome some of the moments that don't quite work as well. Oh, and there is one moment towards the end of the movie that, just rocked my world. It was so funny. Maybe the moment of the franchise that I liked the most, but all in all, I had a good time with this in the theater. I do feel as if the story could have been stronger, not quite as strong as the last movie, but it deserves to be on the good tier because it's a good time. How about Kalki, 2898 AD? Now, you may be wondering, Austin, what is this? What is this movie that I've never heard of? It looks like a big blockbuster, but why do I not know what it is? Well, it is the biggest Tollywood movie in quite some time, and one of the biggest movies from India in quite some time. A lot of people said it was going to be bigger than RRR. Now, I don't know if it's going to have the cultural relevance of that film, but in terms of big India blockbusters, it's one of the biggest we've ever seen. It's a sci-fi, action, adventure, drama, comedic, romance movie. I mean, it literally has everything you want. Now, does it feel a little scattered and all over the place on occasion? Yes, and there were a couple of things in the movie that I was a bit confused by. I need some some lore explanation, if you will, or some historical explanation because of what this is taken from. But I love this dystopian future mixed with an Elysium/Mad Max style of movie that features some of the coolest and craziest character entrances you will ever see in a film. Prabhas is an absolute star. I mean, a megastar. And he proves that in this movie. And I really enjoyed especially the third act action sequences, which had me on the edge of my seat. And this movie gets silly quite often, actually, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. It does it with a smile on its face. And that's not something I often see in American movies, and so I really appreciate it. Therefore, yeah, I'm putting this one on the great tier, man. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry.
Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree?
Next up, Kinds of Kindness. This is a Yorgos Lanthimos anthology film, and so you get 3 little movies and 1 big movie, but they all have the same cast, similar themes, the same score, an atmosphere that is haunting yet thrilling, but slightly changes with each episode, if you will. Now, my absolute favorite of the films was the first one by far. Plemons' obsessive relationship with Willem Dafoe's character and the fact that he's going to do whatever it takes to make things right. Like, I enjoyed that, and there's a horrifying aspect to that story, absolutely. The second story, not as good. Some issues towards the end. I was compelled at the beginning, and the mystery surrounding Emma Stone's disappearance was awesome. But by the time we get the answers to our questions, they weren't really answers because I still wondered about a lot of stuff happening. And then the third movie was just all over the place. Didn't work at all. I actually found it to be quite a bad film. If it was a movie in itself, this would by far be Yorgos Lanthimos' most critically panned thing, experience, whatever. But all in all, I found it to be a mixed bag because I really enjoyed the first. I was divided on the second. Did not like the third. I love the fact that this movie exists, and I like that he's taking risks. But for me, some of those risks didn't pay off. And so I'm putting Kinds of Kindness on the meh tier, which may shock a lot of people.
This is Joy, coming to you live in Riley's mind. Make some noise!
Inside Out 2. Inside Out 2 is just full of joy and anxiety. See what I did there? You get it? Because they're actually in the movie, you understand?
Oh my god, that was so funny!
Riley is now a teenager, and she's going through puberty, and so all of these new emotions are coming about. They're mixing with the emotions that we know and love. The voice cast is amazing with these new emotions, especially Maya Hawke playing anxiety, which I think is taking the world by storm. The fact that they're telling you all of these things in a movie that is for families as opposed to the normal situations that we see is just wonderful, man. And the fact that kids are being exposed to this type of thing. I wish I had a movie like this as a kid, but it's not just a movie for kids. It's a movie for kids, the adults taking their kids, the older teen brothers and sisters. It's for everyone. And that's why Inside Out 2 is so special. Not as good as the original. It's not as original as the original, and it doesn't have that one big impactful bing bong moment, but as a whole, it's just a great Pixar movie, and that is why I am 100% confident in putting it on the great tier. Why is this taking so long? There we go. It's lagging today. Kevin Costner's Horizon: An American Saga Part 1. He's a man in the Wild West. Ram.
Guts, glory, Ram.
Costner's good in the movie. Funny thing is, he didn't show up until an hour in, and I was like, wait, what? But he's in the poster. This movie is also about a lot of things. I actually found the beginning, the opening, without Kevin Costner, to be really compelling. You have this town full of people and they're attacked, and so you get to see these extremely emotional moments of people that know that they're about to die, but you also have those you're rooting for their survival, and what's happening with this old town is now being replaced by this new town, but you also have all the stuff that Kevin Costner's doing, and you have all the stuff that all the other characters are doing, and there's a lot going on in Horizon: An American Saga Part 1.
Guts, glory, Ram.
The story's unfocused, and it really does feel like Part 1 is setting up for Part 2 to be that big, compelling, epic Western that I thought part 1 was going to be. We even get a montage at the end that kind of plays as a trailer for part 2, which was interesting. I hope a lot of these stories start connecting, and maybe that's what it's supposed to be, but for me, I need something to streamline this a little better. It feels a bit all over the place. That being said, a big sprawling 90s, it's not set in the 90s, but the kind of movie we would have gotten in the 90s Western with an amazing score, one of the best scores of the year. I genuinely believe that. And something that your dad can sit down, relax, and watch, and you can watch it with them and enjoy. I find something in that is special that we don't often get in the 2020s, and even with my flaws, I still really enjoyed parts of this movie and the way that score mixes in and elevates all of these extremely emotional moments. So, yeah, I'm actually going to put Horizon Part 1 on the okay tier. I found it to be a lot better than people were saying. Shh. Be very, very quiet, or the demons will get you. That's what they do in A Quiet Place Day 1. They're very, very quiet. I enjoyed this. I had fun with it. It's an entertaining theatrical experience. I just didn't find myself connecting with the characters like I did in the first 2 Quiet Place movies. I also found myself questioning some of the decision-making and some of the moments a lot more than the other Quiet Place films. Now, of course, I watched my Twitter timeline explode with Quiet Place revisionism, because that always happens with a good movie. They go back and hate it. And I saw that. And they were questioning things where I'm like, guys, it's an easy answer. It's a kid. That's why the kid's playing with the toy that his sister put batteries in, because he's a kid. Why are you questioning? Don't be stupid. Be smart. Now, there are issues in the first 2, I completely agree, but there were more in this one, more things that I question. I love the idea of setting it in New York, this being a spinoff. It's day 1. I do wish they would have showed us how they figured out what's actually happening with the aliens a bit better and didn't just skip right through that, because that was one of the most intriguing parts for me. But still, I had a good time in the theater. It was a fun watch. Some really nice jump scares. I like the style of this movie, the look and feel. I love the fact that we're bringing in different directors. And the performances, Quinn, Lupita Nyong'o, are very, very good. And so I'm going to put day 1 on the good tier. Yeah, I wanted it to be great, but it's still good.
No, I don't buy it.
What?
You're not a hitman. You can't be.
Hitman is a hit, man. You know how many tweets I saw that said that? I almost logged out and deleted. Almost. And I just said it. So what does that make me? A troll? Glenn Powell's a movie star. If you weren't already convinced somehow by watching him in Top Gun Maverick and some rom-coms and some things that don't feel quite as grand as a movie like Twisters coming later this year, Hitman is a summer blockbuster that isn't technically a blockbuster because it's not in theaters, but it works as that. On Netflix, it's a fun, entertaining, compelling story where characters are funny, maybe not laugh out loud funny, but you get those quirky moments, but you also get an awesome relationship, chemistry that was so good. Adria Arjona and Glenn Powell on screen together, come on, you couldn't ask for anything better. I thought the chemistry in this movie was just as good as the chemistry in Anyone But You, but this has that Richard Linklater feel to it where it elevates even the material that's already creative and funny and turns it into something that I think is a crowd-pleasing hit. Now, characters make some decisions towards the end that is going to have a lot of people like, I don't know if that movie went in the direction that I wanted it to go in. I thought it worked. I thought the character decisions worked. It's just a really fun film. Now, it's a little more simplistic than people made it out to be because I thought this was going to be a big Oscar player when I first heard the buzz. It's not that. It's just a really elevated version of things we've seen before, but elevated in a way that makes it a lot more charming and entertaining. So, all in all, I thought this was a great movie. I'm on the verge of awesome, but I'm going to go great it falls just short, but, you know, maybe a rewatch will give it that bump it needs. Before we rank these movies, let me know if you enjoyed these videos by dropping that like down below, and if you want to support our podcast Movie Mode or my second channel, Burke Reacts, a lot happened in June. I've got to go the disappointment of The Watchers at the bottom. I just thought the movie would be so much more than what it was, and that looks good. We have a family affair, and then Sharks in Paris, because you have to go Sharks in Paris, followed by Kinds of Kindness, a movie that I wanted to be so much better, and Horizon, a film that I don't think is as bad as people are saying. On the good tier, I'm keeping Quiet Place at the bottom, followed by The Bikeriders, just slightly behind Bad Boys Ride or Die, which again is just a really good time in the theater. On the great tier, man, this is tough, but I've got to go Kalki in third, Inside Out 2 in second, and I'm going to go Hitman at number 1. Just a really great time in the theater, which I saw it in a theater, but it's on Netflix, and so I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this one on Netflix. I had a blast with it, but the top 3 are really, really great. A lot of the other ones,
He stinks, and I don't like him.
were either disappointing, I expected more out of them, or on the bad tier, they fell completely flat. So let me know what you thought of June. Are you excited for July? And are you excited for my best of the year so far list? We're talking movies and TV shows this week. I'll see you soon.